This, folks, may be the most shocking poll I've ever seen Trafalgar come out with. And this may single-handedly be the biggest indicator on what's happening for 2022. So Trafalgar, one of the best pollsters in America, in fact, probably the best pollster in the United States. They have been correct in 2020, 2021, 2018, 2016. Basically every single time they've been spot on. But what they came out with like 2 days ago is the most shocking polling result think I've ever seen. And no, I thought, 2022 would be like the same as 2014 and 2010 for the generic ballot. Like R plus 7, R plus 8, maybe a point better. But this is stunning to me because I didn't expect to see this in January of 2022. This should be, if this was going to happen, be June, July, August, not today. You go down here. Republicans have a 15-point lead in the generic ballot. A 15-point lead. Or 13-point lead, excuse me. A 13-point lead. I was stunned. I thought this was a typo. I thought, Joe Biden typed this up or something like that. No, this is actually what they found. A 13-point Republican lead in the generic ballot. And this isn't the only pollster showing something like this. Rasmussen, a fairly good pollster that has hiccups here and then, but relatively speaking, national ballot polls, they're basically spot on. Found Republicans up by 9. So we're finding a clear trend that, hey, average of the two, it's looking like Republicans going to win the generic ballot by 11. That's right, 11. I have never thought that was possible. I don't think a Republican candidate or the Republican Party has won the generic ballot by more than 10 ever. But here we have polls by actual pollsters, not some fake fraudsters, showing that by 13. This is absurd. And you look at the age participation, ethnicity participation, and party. You look at this. It's basically spot on, if not favorable to Democrats in some instances. I mean, party ID for this should be D plus 1 at most, maybe D plus 2. They have it D plus 3 or D plus 4. Gender, fairly female. So this is showing that there is a bigger shift happening here. Not just from the Republican and GQP, voting out the great Brandon. No. This is an entire repudiation by most Americans saying, no, stop it. Enough is enough with this garbage. So if you don't know, there is a shift happening to the Republican Party that has never been seen before, thanks in part of Trumpism, nationalism, America First, all of those policies. Those policies have opened the Pandora's box of new people looking at the Republican Party and thinking, you know what? This is a party I can join that represents my values of Christianity, abortion, other cultural issues, but at the same time can allow me to voice my opinion on economic issues, more, government intervention, all that stuff. And the Republican Party is shifting to that, but it isn't that now. So the question is this: who are these people that are changing parties? And second of all, historically, what the hell? Where is this context, right? How big is this truly? Well, let's go back to 1936. This is the only election I could find that either party won by more than 13 on the generic ballot. Democrats won 334 House seats. Now, again, this is a bit misleading because, of course, they had the Deep South at the time. I mean, they said you had 200 House seats for free. They gerrymandered the living shit out of the Deep South. And, well, that's why 334, that's not real, all right, to an extent. But even then, you minus, let's say 50. You're talking Republicans possibly having 280 House seats. 1994, they only won by 7 points. And they had 230 in the House. 2010, they won the generic ballot by 7 again. or almost 8. And they won 242 House seats. 2014, 247. They won the House ballot by round 6. 2020, they lost by round 3, but got 213. They just need to pick up 6 House seats or so, and they have the U.S. House back. This is unprecedented. Unprecedented. I mean, you're talking about doing this in modern day politics. And if you don't know, winning by almost 13 for the generic ballot hasn't happened since prior to World War II. And the only close one I could think of was maybe 2008. But you had a recession. You had the Republican Party in fire. Just imploding. And they still couldn't crack a 10-point win on the generic ballot. But the question is, where or what seats would they pick up? How many seats would they pick up? Well, for starters, let's go down here. This is the one thing I do like about Wiki. Where is it? There is, here. You see all these seats here, from California's 3rd to New Jersey's 7th. Again, there's redistricting, so that may change a little bit. But essentially, every single one of these Democrat seats, except, like, a couple, like one of the New Jersey, well, not New Jersey, like Illinois districts or Georgia's districts, they're all going to flip. Every single one of these would flip Republican immediately, without even hesitation. Most of these would be borderline safe in this environment. But that's not the most absurd part. California 7th, a D+5 district according to Cook. Biden won it by around 14. Democrats down ballot won it by around 13. A Republican has not won this district since, I don't know, since the early 60s? Not even that. Since 56. This has been a Democrat seat for almost 60 years to 70 years. Guess what? You do some basic math. If Democrats won the generic ballot by 2, and Democrats won this district by 13, do some math, Republicans could flip this seat. I mean, this is unheard of. This is a seat that has basically never gone Republican in 70 years. And it could potentially flip. And you know what this district is? It isn't, 80% white. It's 16% Hispanic, 15% Asian, 7.5% black. Only 54.5% white. This district is the best representative of what's happening. What's happening in America is white working class voters are shifting Republican, but the biggest shifts are coming from Hispanic working class voters, Asian middle class voters, and even some black working class voters in the deep, deep South. We saw this in 2020. So there's 3 main groups, or almost 4, that are really shifting Republican. Working class whites. We saw this in New Jersey. The Democrats still had that old blue dog Dem base of working class Democrats. They've abandoned Joe in the Democrat Party. You have Asian middle class voters who are sick and tired of all the woke garbage surrounding them. Like, oh, you people are just, you people are too good for Harvard. You cannot be allowed at Harvard. People are sick of this. There's also Hispanic working class voters. Hispanic working class voters, we saw this in southern Texas. We saw this across the nation, Florida, all of that. That's not a surprise. But also black working class voters, it's just mostly in the deep South, Mississippi, Alabama. There are some towns in Mississippi and Alabama that are like 80% black that never voted Republican once. I don't think even after the Civil War, voted Republican for the first time ever. And these places are trending the most Republican. And that's where this 13% is coming from. Not from, old boomer cons. It's coming from white working class, Hispanic working class, Asian middle class, black working class to a lesser extent. But they're also younger voters. These voters are not like 80 years old. They're younger. Republicans are getting younger while Democrats get older. It's a weird situation, but it's true. From all the data we have, the Zoomers, the Millennials, all that, they're shifting heavy Republican. Boomers, on the other hand, are actually shifting like 2 or 3 points Democrat. It's a weird shift, but you start thinking about it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense to a lesser extent. I mean, the boomers now, they're starting to get overran by, those neoliberal types from the 70s, They're getting older, and they're starting to vote en masse. And they're starting to overtake that 65 plus age range. So that's why the boomer vote is slowly getting more Democrat, but not by much. It's going to stall out like a 2-point shift Democrat at most. But all the other age groups, especially Zoomers, are making the biggest shift Republican. Because Republicans are starting to become America first, less immigration, actual economic policies that benefit the average American. Not some crappy, oh, you see here, we just deregulate everything, and we're all good. No, actual economic reform. Now, I'm not saying the Republican Party should become a quote-unquote big tent party. I think it should be a working class, middle class party. That's what it should be. Not this, just every single person of every race should come. No, we should focus on working class whites, Hispanics, Mexicans. Not Mexicans, they're Hispanic, dear Lord. You know what I'm saying. Get middle class, working class voters to unite under one party. Not this, every single person, including those in the LGBTQ plus community that don't represent our values, should also join. No. It's working class voters causing this shift, especially younger ones. Proving my point that the younger generation, while they're going through a lot of shit with education, they're fairly conservative compared to their predecessors. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button below, subscribe, share with friends, hit the little bell, and yes. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to everyone.